My luxury Airbnb isn't getting booked. Even though my property is in perfect condition, has all the best amenities, and I always respond quickly to all the inquiries, my occupancy rate doesn't go higher than 20 and 30%. That's the story that I hear all the time from short-term rental operators. But don't stress, because that's what we're here for. When you partner with us, you do not have to worry about anything. We will handle it all. We'll make sure that we give you the correct and proper marketing strategy so that you can reach that 80, 90% occupancy rate that most of us desire. You heard that right. When you partner with us, you don't have to worry about a thing, and we'll make sure that you reach that occupancy rate that you so desire. Just DM me the word partner. All right, welcome back, my beautiful people, to STR News and Digest, where you come to listen and learn about the latest news of travel, the short-term rental industry, and the business of travel and short-term rentals. Today, I have a lot of news to cover today. I mean, there's a lot happening both in the travel industry and the short-term rental industry. Some of the news we're going to cover today is United Airlines reducing some of its domestic flights. American Airlines finally giving free Wi-Fi, but only to its members. Some travel technology that Expedia is experimenting with. We're also, as always, every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Also, I'm going to give you some of the latest deals in terms of travel. We're going to talk about some regulations. Solo cruising. If you are someone that travels by themselves, like I do, I travel a lot by myself. The cruise line industry is really focusing on you, and there's going to be some changes in the cruise line industry as it relates to solo travel. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about regulations, as we've been talking about regulations for a while. We're going to talk about some of the latest news in Airbnb. So if you're a traveler, if you're a short-term rental operator, stay tuned, because there's a lot of information from each of you. Again, as always, if you're watching live on one of the social media channels and you have a question, just ask the question. We'll try to get to it. If you're on YouTube and you have a question, put the question in the comment box, and I will get to that as well. Again, there's several of you watching right now. I greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me see what the first story I want to touch. Let's talk about United Airlines, and they're going to be cutting some flights. And let me just read right off their website. United Airlines said Tuesday it would trim its domestic schedule by 4% during the third quarter in response to the current demand environment. Now, what does that mean? I have no freaking idea. Because I mentioned before, right now, the biggest trend in travel is that supposedly travel is on the downside. There's supposedly a lot of reduction in travel because of the uncertainty and some of the policies that the U.S. has put on the world in terms of tariffs, etc. Not even remotely close to knowing how tariffs affect travel, but it is being put out there. But here's what's contradictory about what United Airlines has said that. So they're saying that they're going to reduce their domestic routes, which has nothing to do with international travel, by the way. Reduce their domestic route by 4% during the third quarter in response to the current demand environment, right? That's what they said. However, the carrier posted a record first quarter, netting $13.2 billion in revenue and a net income of $385 million. Some of the stuff just really doesn't make sense to me, man. Somebody please explain it to me. But anyway, that's what they're doing. Now, unlike other competitors, though, United Airlines did not pull down their 2025 forecast, but they rather provided a second set of projection. So what they did was they released their first projections for 2025, and then now supposedly because of the uncertainty in the market, they put out a second projection. Now, it is forecast on their second projection to see a 5% decrease in total revenue for the rest of the year, which in their stock adjustments, right? They're saying that it's going to be between $7 and $9 versus $11 and $13. Again, and they're quoting the instability of the market. Again, if you saw record numbers in the first quarter, record numbers, and you predicted an increase in 2020 and 2025, I don't know how they're seeing a correlation, but they are, and I'm just reporting the news, people. You decide what you want to believe. So that's Delta Airlines. Let's move on to, what's the next story I want to cover? Let's see. I want to stick to airlines because there's American Airlines. I talked about American Airlines. American Airlines is now, it's not for 2025 though, it's for 2026. They're going to be giving all domestic and international flights free Wi-Fi, but only to their members. Now, American Airlines is one of the airlines that has been falling behind on this. There's plenty of other airlines that are, especially on domestic flights, they're giving free Wi-Fi. Even budget airlines like Spirit, if you are a gold member on Spirit, you get free Wi-Fi, right? If you are a silver member on Spirit, you don't get free Wi-Fi, but you'll get a discount for the Wi-Fi. But even Spirit, JetBlue, all these other airlines have been giving Wi-Fi to their members forever. Why American Airlines has not done this is beyond me, and why are they waiting to 2026 is even further beyond me. But they are definitely not up to par with that. But for those members, American Airlines members, then you have something to look forward to in 2026. Now I talked about Emirates last STR news about some of their sales, and I'm going to talk about some sales now. And some of these numbers are very similar to last week's. Let me bring these up. So some of these business travel. Now, I talked about Emirates last time. Today, we have some sales. Again, it's United Airlines, Turkish Airlines are the two airlines that are giving business class discounts. Very similar to what we saw with Emirates and I believe it was also United last STR news. But here's some of their top deals. Anywhere in the eastern coast of the United States, if you fly, the major hubs. I'm going to say that again, repeat that. Not the entire eastern hub. But if you're flying out of Dallas, JFK, LaGuardia, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, some of the major hubs on the East Coast, then you can fly to, for example, Spain, Madrid specifically, for $2,100, business class. Italy is $2,500. Germany, which I'll be there next month, 2 weeks away, almost 2 weeks away. I'll be spending a lot of time in Europe. I'm going to spend the whole month of May, but Germany, $2,200. Now, this price, again, this is what I paid for my tickets, my round trip tickets, leaving Fort Lauderdale, business class. And I'm surprised that even, they still have this price. And I am flying on United. France is $2,500. Greece is $2,600. Thailand is $3,000. Japan, $3,100. India, $32,000. Really cheap for India for $3,200. South Africa, $3,300. So those are the business class deals on United and Turkish Airlines. So if you're interested in those, just DM me business class, and I'll give you some more information on those flight deals. I'm going to talk a little bit later on about solo travelers and cruises and how that applies. But right now, I actually want to show you, and I had this all set up because this is pretty cool. I'm going to show you in Europe right now. Let me send this over to me. One quick second. Let me email this to me. I think you're really gonna like this because Emirates, which like I said, I'm a big fan of, but there's a lot of European airlines, and one that's not European, which is LATAM, that in the latter part of 2025, they're rolling out some new Airbuses, and I want you to see what premium economy, not business class, what premium economy looks like in these airlines. So let me email this to me so I can share my screen and you guys can see it. I've been having a lot of issues with the internet, so if I start to have issues with the internet, just let me know. All right, guys, check this out. So already in the air, but this is Emirates. This is not business class, people. I'm going to repeat that again. This is not business class. This is their premier economy cabin. Just check that out. Let me make sure you guys are able to see that. Yeah. I'll actually make this even bigger so you can see this. This is their premium economy. I mean, I can't think of a better way to fly premium. You know, business class obviously is the best. But I mean, check this out, man. This is freaking beautiful. And again, what's really, really cool about Emirates is not just, you know, the seats, not just the TV, the entertainment they provide, but it's the service, people. They really, really do it right in Emirates. So that's one example, but there's several others. And let me see if I can find the other one. KLM. It's another airline. I'm going to show you this one. This is going to have several of these. So if you guys are planning to be in or fly in anywhere in Europe, in Asia, highly recommend you look at some of these airlines. I'm going to go through these airlines pretty quick so you can see. Again, this is Emirates. We already talked about Emirates. Now this new carrier, Qantas, again, really cool seats. Now this is economy, right? Economy. This is, I don't know, All Nippon Airline. Never heard of it. This is their premium economy. Which one's this one? Virgin Atlantic. I'm a big fan of Virgin Airlines. Even their Virgin Cruises, some of the best freaking seats. The cruises are really, really amazing. But this is their new Airbus, the A350. Look how cool that is. And with Virgin, when you go inside, I mean, you kind of feel like you're in a disco. It's, you know, if you're into that, it's pretty cool. This is Singapore Airlines. This is their premium economy. This is premium economy too. Now, this was pretty cool. This is Scandinavian airline. This is their premium economy, man. This is really nice. Another airline I never heard of, Cathay Pacific. I never heard of that. But that's there. And this is the LATAM. LATAM is really nothing special. This is the premium economy, but it isn't bad. But it's also, LATAM is also an economy airline, really inexpensive flights. So look at those airlines that I just mentioned. If you're flying anywhere in Europe or Asia or the Middle East, these all fly out there. Pretty cool airlines. Ticket price are very comparable to everything else you're going to find. I really like those. Let me stop sharing my screen. Let me go on to the next story. Oh, the one that I didn't mention, airline that is also is Swiss Air. Swiss Air is coming out with some nice Airbuses with some good pricing on their fares. All right, next story. Let's talk about solo cruising. So, as I mentioned, I'm one of those individuals who likes to travel by myself often. Just because whenever I'm trying to deal with. You got a question, Lorena?
Fernando, sorry, someone asked something like, these airlines and the flights and everything that you are talking about, they ask like, is only for Asia or is also can be like they have that for Europe? They ask that.
No, so all the premium seats or everything I just talked about is for Europe. It's for Asia and for the Middle East. So Swiss Airlines, all the airlines I just talked about, it's for Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. So that's for overseas stuff. They're not here domestically yet. So in the US, they're not available here. I anticipate in 2026 they will be. They're being launched in Europe, but almost all those airlines, with the exception of LATAM, are all European airlines and or UAE. So as I was mentioning before, if you're a traveler like me, I'm a spontaneous travel. I like to travel by myself most of the time, and mainly not because I'm antisocial or anything like that. It's just because I like to travel a lot, and most people don't have the privilege or the ability to travel as often as I do. So sometimes I'm forced to do that by myself. But I know there's a big market for solo travelers. In recent years, I can't tell you how many packages I've sold for single travelers, right? And the cruise airline industry is paying attention. And one of the things that they're doing is that they're catering to solo travelers. If you ever traveled or booked a cruise, you know that most of the prices are for double occupancy, right? So if you're traveling by yourself in the past, you're going to pay what two people pay for a cabin, right? Because they sell the cabin on a double occupancy rate. So now, because of the amount of solo travelers out there, you're starting to see that a lot of airlines are starting to cater to these solo travelers. I'm going to give you a list of some of there's a lot of them. Almost all the major airlines, cruise lines are not catering to them. But, here's some of the benefits of being a solo traveler on a cruise versus traveling by yourself, like land travel, right? Number one, I'm going to give you, it's the same benefits for everyone, is that when you go on a cruise, you're going to have the ability to see different ports without having to pack every time you hit a port, right? Because your accommodation is the cruise. If you are a solo traveler, some of the benefits you get as a solo traveler is that when you get on the cruise, you're going to have access to staff members on the cruise that are going to cater to you specifically, right? A lot of cruise lines that are catering to solo travelers are now assigning cruise members to you, and they're going to be giving you itineraries. They're going to give you options to meet other people. In fact, the last 3 cruises I've been on, there's been specific events for solo travelers so they can mingle. Man, this light went off. What's the status? Okay. So they can mingle and interact with each other. And there's going to be a lot of events specific to solo travelers. Now, in addition to that, they're providing specific cabins for solo travel. Now, the cabins, there's not as many, and they tend to sell out very, very quickly. And this is why a lot of cruise lines are, they're seeing the demand. This is why they're catering to it, because a few of them started with a few cabins for solo travelers, and every cruise line that I've ever been on had this division sold out months in advance. So if you are interested in a solo cruise, understand that you need to really plan ahead, because most of these sell out. And the beauty about it is that you don't have to pay that double occupancy rate that a lot of cruise lines actually charge when you book with them. So here are some of the cruise ships that provide or cater to solo travelers. And you're going to guess the first one, because I just talked about them, is Virgin Cruises. Virgin Cruises, one of my favorites, people. And they were one of the first to cater to solo travelers. Next is going to be Royal Caribbean, Norwegian Cruise Line, Costa Cruises, Celebrity Cruises, and then some of the luxury lines like Waterways, which Waterways is more of a river type cruise ship, very for the luxury or high end type cruises. But those are the cruise lines that are currently catering to solo cruises. Right now, we have several deals on both Virgin and Royal Caribbean. If you're interested on traveling on one of these cruise ships as a solo traveler, then DM me the word solo and I will provide you that information. All right. Now, to some of the crazy, let's talk about Kayak. Kayak, the OTA, the online travel agency. I've been talking about this for a while, and that is artificial intelligence acting as travel agencies. Now, Kayak has added an AI feature to, and let me see if I can bring up the full article. Where did I put that? I got so many windows open right now. All right, Kayak has added an AI feature, and I'm going to lump Expedia into this because they also are jumping in on this bandwagon. They're adding an AI feature to create specific and individualized itinerary for their customers. So I talked about this before. We actually use AI to create itineraries for areas where we personally have not been. Even though, like I said, in my staff is very well versed in terms of travel. Even Lorena here, who caters to those going to Colombia, specifically Medellin, where we can create a specialized, unique, and specific itinerary for those looking to travel to Colombia and specifically Medellin. We can get you everything from drivers, tour guides, to nice hidden gems that most people don't know about in Colombia or in Envigado in general. But going back to Kayak, they had jumped on this bandwagon. So now if you go to Kayak, certain parts, they're beta testing this. Certain customers are going to have the ability to create full itineraries, and they're going to have the ability that if, for example, if you find an itinerary or a flight to a specific area, you screenshot that from wherever you saw it at, you input that into Kayak's AI, and Kayak will do a search to see if they can find you a cheaper flight, or if it's an itinerary or an accommodation, if they can find you a similar or equal to accommodations that's less, and they will provide it for you. I mean, we're going to see this. Every OTA is going to have this capability, and they're going to be doing this. I'm going to go back to Airbnb. Airbnb is trying to be that all-in-one travel OTA, and they're going to implement this. But Expedia and Kayak has already started doing that. Now let's continue to talk about Airbnb. I'm going to give you some good stuff with Airbnb, and I'm going to give you some bad stuff with Airbnb, especially with the latest announcement that's come out from Airbnb that it's going to affect probably 98% of hosts. So stay tuned for that news. But right now, I talked about this before. Airbnb created the co-hosting marketplace. So they're trying to be the all-in-one solution, and they created a co-hosting marketplace. So if you are a new host and you're looking to get some help, someone to help you co-host and manage your property, Airbnb gives you that ability to do so right on their platform. They're going to give recommendations for a co-host. That currently is only in the US and certain parts of South America. They have expanded into Asia now. And their biggest market spot is going to be Japan. So they just debuted this co-hosted marketplace in Japan. They've been eyeing this for a while. Japan is a big market for Airbnb. And they started to do that. Now, let's see what else. I'm going to quickly go into Vrbo, and I'm going to come back to Airbnb because I need to give you some very important news on Airbnb that, like I said, that affects 98% of the hosts. Vrbo is now, if you're not paying attention to Vrbo, you should. As I mentioned before, ever since Expedia bought Vrbo or Expedia, because they're the owners of Vrbo, they have been really pushing Vrbo hard. They really wanted to capture a lot of the market space and take away some of the market from Airbnb. I talked about this a lot during the Super Bowl. I mean, if you watched the Super Bowl, you saw several Vrbo commercials. And if you know anything about commercials on the Super Bowl, it is not cheap to advertise during the Super Bowl, right? And they spent a lot of money. Why? Because they want to expand their portfolio. They really want to take a lot of the market space from Airbnb. I have seen a huge increase in my Vrbo bookings, which I'm very happy about, because again, Vrbo doesn't have a lot of the problems that Airbnb has, and even more so now with the latest news that came up. But let me read some of the stuff that they're doing. Tom Rosolio, the VP of Vacation Rental Partnership at Expedia Group, stated that Vrbo is doubling down on quality and will be delisting. Let me say that again. Will be delisting properties that have a tendency to cancel reservations and have a tendency to get low ratings. I've been saying this forever, people. If you are a short-term rental operator and you're not a true professional, meaning you are not paying attention to the industry, all you're looking is to make a buck here and there, I implore you, leave the industry. You're hurting everyone in this industry. And thankfully, Vrbo is following suit with Airbnb, because I talked about Airbnb doing this last year. I mean, Airbnb got rid of hundreds, if not thousands, of properties in the US alone that were not performing. Now, I'm going to talk about what happened to me on a property that I bought in a second, that I'm still fighting Airbnb on. But understand that long gone are the days of having shitty properties and as a host, doing a shitty job as a host, right? So get, step up your game, be a professional, or get out of the game, or you're going to be forced out. Because Verbal's not doing it. Airbnb's been doing it for a year. And I'm sure Booking and some of the other platforms are going to follow suit. Now, let's talk about Airbnb. Now, there's a lot I need to say about Airbnb. But I'm going to talk specifically, and I'm going to, in fact, I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to use Sean Rakovich. Let me see. He did a video on this. And even though I don't agree with a lot of what Sean says, because he's a big fan of rental arbitrage. And I think rental arbitrage was one of, if not the worst strategies to build wealth, etc., on the platform. And one of the reasons why I think there's been a lot of issues with Airbnb was those people doing rental arbitrage. But in the last couple of years, Sean has seen the light. He realized rental arbitrage is not the play. In fact, he lost his ass on rental arbitrage. And he's not talking about that as much anymore, although he's still selling courses on it. And let me see if I can find this freaking video. Let's see. I might not be able to find it right now, but if not, 2 seconds to look. Okay, I think this is it. All right, this is not the exact video, but this is him doing a follow-up video to the video that he did originally. So let me share my screen. Now, in this video, it's titled, Airbnb won't survive this. This is idiotic, right?
More about this policy. It is not just insane. It is absolutely idiotic what it's doing to hosts. It's like, oh,
all right, let me give you the policy because he didn't mention the policy in this video. So here's what Airbnb just did. Starting May 10th, Airbnb is not allowing a lot of the stuff they allowed in the past. I'm going to give you a few examples. Unless you are a hotel or an API connected property, and let me explain what an API connected property. As I mentioned before, many times before, one of the privileges that I have with Airbnb is that I have a dedicated Airbnb personnel assigned to me, and because I'm an API connected property, meaning all my properties are connected to my PMS system, I get extra privileges than most people don't have. Privileges like collecting deposits off platform, requiring guests to register with us off platform. We also get the privilege of for example, you can either pay the deposit or do the waiver off platform. We can communicate off platform. We used to, we don't do it anymore. We do our own background checks, but we used to use a third party to do our background checks. Here's what Airbnb did. Starting May 10th, most people can't, and including ourselves, can't do the following, and that is using third parties to conduct criminal background checks or checks in general. Can't do that anymore. We can't take the guest off platform like we used to. Can't do that anymore. Luckily, we can still collect that security deposit, but that security deposit needs to be collected on platform. We used to collect it off platform. Now we have to collect it via the platform, which I don't have a problem collecting it via the platform. It just makes it harder for the guests because before our deposits are refundable. And once the guest checks out and everything's okay with the property, we refund, we initiate the return of the deposit. And it usually, depending on the bank or the credit card they use, usually takes between 1 and 3 days. To do it through Airbnb takes over a week for you to get your security deposit back. And here's the problem that's going to happen for us and many other people that collect security deposit. You're going to have the guests constantly calling you, asking you, where's my deposit? So that's a dumb thing they're doing. The registration and all that stuff is also, in my opinion, pretty stupid. I know why they're doing it. They're doing it because Airbnb has seen a dramatic decrease in their bookings. I mentioned this before. Airbnb has lost shares in the industry, and they've been doing so in the last 3 quarters, right? Even though demand is high, they're seeing a big loss in that. And one of the reasons they believe they're losing shares is because people like myself, once we get that customer, we keep that customer. Meaning, if that customer came through Airbnb, we're going to market to that customer so that next time they come, they book directly with us. I mean, that's the goal, people, right? We want to control our business. We don't want to be relying on Airbnb because Airbnb has a tendency to do stupid shit like this, right? So I showed you in the past, if you follow this channel, how our direct bookings have steadily increased throughout the year because of our marketing. And I'm going to continue to do that, and more so now because of this. But let's listen to Sean and his take on this ridiculous policy.
Ready. I've talked to so many of you since my video a few days ago, and the cascade of bullshit, pardon my French, that is going to hit hosts everywhere because of this policy change is highly irresponsible. First off, let's talk about insurances. How many of you use a waiver program, like say Superhog or something like that? You are no longer allowed to use a waiver program unless you embed that into your final price. Okay, so you cannot selectively apply a waiver. You cannot list that there's a waiver and still be price competitive and show up in the algorithm appropriately and then give somebody your waiver after the fact. You can't do that. You can no longer protect yourself against abuse of like electricity. Remember the whole crypto mining thing? Some of you guys have like called me about this, or people that are abusing your washer and dryer when you have low price listings, because all of your non-optional stuff has to be baked into your nightly rate. Somebody could show up to your house, run your washer and dryer nonstop and crypto mine and blow up your property for hundreds and hundreds or thousands of dollars of electricity, and you can't claw that back out of them by putting in that your house rules that your electricity allotment stops at a certain point. This is going to be highly like difficult to argue. And further, let's talk about the photo ID BS, okay? You're not allowed to collect a photo ID from someone in order to run a background check anymore. And if you guys have ever done this, you understand that the way that this used to work is you could, but the guest was allowed to cancel, right? So the guest could cancel without penalty if they did not want to give you their driver's license or if they did not want to fill out a background check. Well, Airbnb is taking this even farther now that you can't even attempt to do this because you can get banned for it. Now, here's the problem. Us hosts know that Airbnb isn't the best at this. Sure, they're decent, right? The barrier to entry is low. We can get started with Airbnb and make enough money, but they still have a party problem. They absolutely have a party problem. They have a human trafficking problem. They have a gang activity problem, city to city. They've got violent crime.
Anyways, guys, you get the gist. That, my friends, this new policy, I mean, I am hoping it gets changed, which I doubt. But you get the gist as to what I'm referring to. But one second. All right. So, guys, really look at this policy. And again, this is more reason why you should be an API connected property. Again, I lost some privileges with this new policy. Like Sean just mentioned, I can't ask for that ID anymore. I can't do the background checks that I've been doing in the past because I can't get that verification. In addition to that, you can get banned. 1 second. In addition to that, on Airbnb properties or Airbnb guests, I used to retarget them because I had the ability to collect their emails. Now, this also is going to hurt, like he just mentioned, Superhog, because they are a background company. I don't know how they're going to survive without Airbnb, but it's going to affect them. It's going to affect companies like StayFi. If you have StayFi, and if you don't know what StayFi is a company that will set up equipment in your property so that when a guest goes there and they want to use the Wi-Fi, it requires them to enter their email address and their name in order to give them access to the Wi-Fi. Very similar to a lot of companies out there when you go to Starbucks or airports or whatever, where you have to enter that information. StayFi has that. You're not allowed to do that with an Airbnb guest anymore. You're not allowed to ask for that anymore. Again, this is such a huge freaking problem. And I hope companies like StayFi, Superhawk sues Airbnb. And I want it to be a class action lawsuit because I want to be part of it. But huge problem. Now, here's another huge problem. And this is personal to me because it just happened to me. I'll give you the background. And then I'll give you the background. I'll set up the email that I received from Airbnb. So I purchased a property several months back for a client. It's not my property. We bought it for a client. The client bought this property as an investment to turn it into a short-term rental. Great property, beautiful property. We got it. There was some renovations we needed to do. We did the renovations. Posted it on Airbnb. I think we went live in December. Since it's been live, it's been almost at 90% occupied. Great reviews on the property. And I don't know why my Wi-Fi is so slow. I can't. Give me 1 second. This is really a pain in the ass. Okay. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I got it up. So finishing my story, purchased this property, put it on Airbnb. It's been running really, really well. And then, and I'm going to share my screen again, I get this email from Airbnb. And I will read it to you. The email reads, it gives me the listing ID number. It says here, listing name, the beach house, 5-minute drive to the beach. This is not my listing, not my listing. The relisting ID, this one's mine, Hollywood Tropical Retreat. Appeal type, listing removal appeal, additional information needed. This is Fernando. Because they sent me an email. They sent me an email telling me that they're going to be removing my listing because I relisted a property that was removed from the platform due to lack of performance, right? Now, I did some research. I looked at this ID number, and this property was removed in that first batch that I mentioned, in which Airbnb removed thousands of properties, hundreds if not thousands of properties off the listing back in the beginning of 2024. I bought this property at the end of 2024 and listed it December of 2024. So there was a 10-month period in which the property wasn't mine. It was unlisted. They sent me this email saying they're going to remove it because I relisted a property that was unlisted. So I appealed, obviously, because I didn't own the property. I wasn't the owner. I had nothing to do with whatever happened back then. In addition to that, I submitted all the 5-star reviews we got, the occupancy that we had, and the fact that there was 0 complaints with the property. Now, if you guys never had to deal with Airbnb, if you never had to, then consider yourself lucky and blessed, because the people that work in Airbnb, I don't want to say something nasty, but they're really, really, truly are incompetent. Incompetent. They are a check the box type person. If it doesn't check the box, they have no idea how to handle the case, right? And I knew that going into it because I've dealt with them since forever now. So sent the appeal, sent the information of the purchase contract of the property. We send the BCPA, which is the county record showing that there was a transfer of the property to us. Explain to them that we are a management company, a reputable company. We have hundreds of listings. None of them have ever been delisted. And I get this response. Thank you for submitting your appeal based on what you provided. Our team, well, this is the one that requested additional information. I'm sorry. And for whatever reason, my Wi-Fi is not working. I don't want to try to get the next one. So I replied with the same information that I sent. And then they replied to me saying that their team decided to uphold the removal. Now they pushed the date because it was supposed to be removed at the end of April. Now it's not being removed until the 15th. I am still fighting with them, and because it makes no sense. How could you ban and penalize a host that had nothing to do with a property? I just don't understand it. I don't get it, but it's another example. It's a prime example, people, why you should not be dependent or reliant on any platform. Focus on direct bookings. Now, we're going to be okay on this property, even if it's not on Airbnb. Like I said before, I've been preparing this forever. And right now, in terms of booking platforms, our direct bookings are always, in the last year and a half, we either been number 2 or number 3, but we never been below number 3. So, and unfortunately, Airbnb is number 1. But I'm going to be fine. I'm going to make that up. But imagine if you are a brand new host, you have a brand new property, you only have one, and this happens to you. It's really, and you don't have any marketing strategy set up yet because you're brand new. You will be in deep shit, people. So again, cautionary tale. Be very mindful what you're doing. Now this is new. I never heard of this. Never even thought it was possible. Now, even if you buy a property, I will double check to make sure that property didn't have issues with Airbnb, because if it did in the past, this may happen to you. All right, guys. I think that is it. I was going to get into some regulations, but I'm not going to get into regulations because this has been a long time, much longer than I wanted it to be. And now I'm having some serious issues with the Wi-Fi. And I am connected directly to my Ethernet. So I don't know why I'm having so many issues. But if there's no other questions, thank you for joining me, especially those of you on YouTube. I see a couple of you guys on YouTube. Thank you. No other questions. I love you guys. I will see you on the next one.